Hey everybody, Mulatto Rance here, just sipping on my afternoon flavored water, looking sexy as hell in my bathrobe as usual. Some of you will get the reference, the rest of you will probably be forced to simply take it at face value. Y'all asked some Q's on Instagram and I got your A's. I've also got Prince Goro here with me, and I'm gonna need his help later on and you'll see why. Now I believe I have answered every single question that was left for me. However, I've tried to sort of structure them in an order that makes sense and flows. So if you ask more than one question together and I don't answer all of them at once, just hang on, it's probably coming a little bit later on down the line. What? I do intermittent fasting, alright? I gotta drink a lot of water earlier on in the day. Speaking of intermittent fasting, what's your take on intermittent fasting? I like it. I recommend it for cutting for some types of people. And let me explain those caveats real quick. I think there are definitely people out there who would be better off avoiding it. Probably the same kinds of people who would be better off avoiding counting calories and macros in general. You know, people with any sort of disordered eating or obsessive compulsive tendencies that might encourage a less than ideal relationship with food. I would also double think using it to bulk. Now I'm not saying you can't use it to bulk, you absolutely can, and I actually did it myself. Here's the thing, there is some research out there, I think, that suggests that it might be beneficial to dose your protein a little bit throughout the day rather than consuming it all within a shorter period or window. We're talking mere percentage points here, obviously, but the bigger reason is this. I regret having used intermittent fasting during my bulking season simply because then when it came time to cut, I no longer had it as an ace up my sleeve or a tool to pull out of the toolbox. I was already so used to it from bulking that it didn't really have the same impact on my cut that it could have. But it's just advice, man. That's all it is. You go out there and do whatever the Brother Pete, one of the loyal Knights of the Order, wants to know, how much you bench, brah? Funny you should ask, Pete. You see, every single time I go to the gym on bench day and get ready to film my usual sets of 405, this happens. As you can see, gym's closed due to a sudden power outage. I was pretty sure today was going to be that 405 bench, too. And that's the reason you never see me benching 405. Seriously though, not very much, man. Now granted, I've been in a prolonged deficit for quite a while now, and I also use pretty strict paused reps, but I'm working with around 200 to 205 pounds for 3 sets of 5 lately. Sir Alex Levine asks, if you could pick any game world to live in, which would it be and why? Fantastic question. The first thing that comes to my head is Amalur from Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning, simply because it's a gorgeous game. The graphics are beautiful. Boys be getting raised from the dead and living forever. She lives there. My second choice would be Pokemon, probably Kanto, because I'm old school, but if I lived in Kanto, then I could do the infinite item trick and get an infinite amount of rare candies, and then I would just eat them myself instead of giving them to Pokemon. Now you might say, Rance, rare candies don't work on humans, they only work on Pokemon, but you don't know that. And even if you're right, I would still have an infinite amount of candy. Okay, this is a Korean name that I'm not entirely sure how to pronounce. It's either Nanshi or Nanzi, or I have a hunch that it might just be Nancy. Do you have a consistent workout and sleep schedule? If so, what time do you work out and sleep? I do a full body routine right now, 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Usually early afternoon. That's when I prefer to work out. As far as sleep is concerned, not so much. I'm a night owl, which means that my bedtime ends up getting pushed progressively further and further and further back each night. Unfortunately, I'm not very productive at night at all. All I want to do is sit around and browse the internet. So then I end up having to reset my sleep schedule earlier. It's not ideal, but it's life. Nancy from earlier also wanted to know, what do you do for a living? I'm an actor, first and foremost. Now, living in a small market like the Midwest, most of the work that I do, that I get paid for, is commercials, industrials, PSAs, print jobs, mascot gigs, things like that. Now, I do get the chance to audition for the occasional movie or television pilot or things like that, but it's fairly rare. Nancy also asks, do you think Skyrim belongs to the Nords? If not, then who? Absolutely not! Okay, I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to disagree with the popular notion here because I'm sick and tired of hearing this unfounded lie getting spread around. Skyrim belongs to the Falmer, its rightful original inhabitants, although we don't like being called Falmer because that term is all too often associated with our fallen, betrayed brethren. But make no mistake, Skyrim belongs to the elves. Yes, friends, I am an Aldmer through and through. Notice I didn't say Altmer, I said Aldmer. Now this is going to have to be its own video later on down the line, maybe a lifting lore episode, but suffice it to say this for now. You races of men think us evil. You think us despicable, but you are oh so very young, and you don't have the entire story. You can't possibly comprehend the greater picture. But you will. My man Joel, aka Arav, who is also a proud Knight of the Order, wants to know, what do you think about rich piano being natural? I don't know. What do you think, Prince Goro? Wow, that was a much more in-depth and thoughtful analysis than the one that I was going to make, so there you go. My friend Akiel, aka Chronic, wants to know, favorite N65 game and why? And he also asks, Intel or AMD? I've yet to play an N65 game. I was not aware that that was a thing. However, my favorite N64 game of all time would easily have to be Hercules: The Legendary Journey. Terrible game, favorite television show of all time, and so I enjoyed this way more than any other N64 game I ever played, despite the fact that I never had a memory card. And that's including Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask. I'm gonna go with Intel simply because that's what I've always used. If AMD is better, then aware me, brah. What software do you use to produce such high quality videos? Oh, get out of here. I use Adobe Premiere Pro. I used to use iMovie, and for quite a while I was able to kind of squeak by with that. Now, for a lot of people, the free ones like iMovie and Windows Movie Maker will have everything that you need. They're great, they're good programs, but for the kinds of things that I'm trying to do, they were just a little bit too limited, and I had to upgrade. Sometimes you just gotta invest a little bit, man. My main man, Alex, from Alex Plumadiata Fitness, asks, will you ever venture out across the ocean and honor our Emerald Isle, that's a mouthful, with the wisdom of the Order of Muscle and Magicka? And also, what's your favorite video game of all time? I think that would be physically and practically impossible for me to say. Let me do this. I'll give you my top 3 favorite franchises. In rough order, Elder Scrolls, Mass Effect, Legend of Zelda. Now, it would be impossible for me to pick a game from any of these 3. I mean, I could never choose between Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask. I have no idea with the Mass Effects. There are things that I love about all 3 games. And if I go with Morrowind, you're going to say that I have nostalgia goggles on. If I say Skyrim, I'll get called a casual. So how about we do this? Let's say my favorite game is the game which, statistically speaking, I have logged the most amount of hours in. It would have to be either Final Fantasy XI Online or Final Fantasy Tactics Advance. And as for your other question, hells to the yes, man. Now, I don't have that area of the map unlocked. I don't have any flight paths over there. But one day, when I am high enough level, I will venture across the ocean to honor your Emerald Isle, and we will have an extraordinary YouTube collaboration of gargantuan proportions. And as I remember it, you owe me a bowl of Cookie Crisps. Dogs or cats? Funny story, there's a scar about an inch from one of my eyes. A cat did it. My answer is dogs. Favorite DBZ character? Oh, hands down Vegeta. Without a thought. How could it be anybody else? I mean, this is a man, this is a prince whose birthright was stolen from him by some young punk upstart who's upstaging him at every turn. Now look, I'm not gonna say that Vegeta was perfect, alright? Obviously he had his flaws, but Vegeta showed us a man whose pride was so great that he allowed a demon to inhabit his body just so he could beat Kakarot, his rival. We then got to watch this man not only admit in an amazing show of humility that Kakarot had always been better than him, but we got to watch him tell his son that he loved him for the first time. Now look, there's a lot of Goku nut huggers out there, and I got nothing against Goku, apart from the fact that I really don't think he's very relatable. But when I hear, Vegeta was just weak. Vegeta was a weakling with a Napoleon complex. You have just missed the deepest, richest, most complex character arc in all of anime, period. Denzel wants to know, will we ever see the Fro return? Alas, my friend, probably not. Chances are not good. Now, it's a lot more likely that you'll see the buzz cut return once Power Rangers is over, and it's even possible that you may just see the Riddick return. Only time will tell. I got bad news. You're not going to see the Fro, the buzz cut, or the Riddick unless little Rance gets his ass in gear and starts preparing for the future. Long time no see, old friends. I'm future Rance. Listen, I don't have much time. What past Rance failed to realize is that this Q&A was going to be about 20 minutes long, so I've done him the favor of separating it into 2 parts, as well as removing about 47 incidents in which he said the word You're welcome. We just lost Tokyo. I'm sorry, in my timeline there's a couple of androids running rampant and wreaking havoc against the world. Their names are Jeff Seid and Mike Chang. If you have them in this timeline, don't trust them. They are not all that they appear to be. Look, I gotta get back to the fight. If you want to see the rest of this Q&A, it'll be up tomorrow. Otherwise, Godspeed.